Your town, your team, your school. Eyewitness News presents the Joe Zone High School Sports Podcast.
Well, hello again. We're finally back on with our podcast from our podcast studio here in Rocky Hill at the WFSB Broadcast House. And we're talking high school basketball today with, if I have to say too much about him, Ken Smith, the longtime head coach at Windsor High School. He and I today are going to be talking high school basketball in Connecticut and how the profession has changed over the last 30 years, how kids have changed, how they're the same, just all about high school basketball. You know, we're not that far away. In fact, Ken, as we start the setup here, this year, the high school football season ends December 14th.
Yes.
And so, as a basketball coach, you don't get those kids really until how far in as your practice started then?
Well, they're not in basketball shape, obviously, and they're just getting over a win or a loss, and all that has to come in, and especially because we have a leader who's on the football team, you know, and it's hard to get him back to lead the other guys, so we're going to really have to work hard while he's gone. It's really bad. It really hurts. You know, it hurts a lot of basketball programs, not just ours.
Oh, yeah. And how late? So when does your first basketball practice start?
December 5th.
Wow. So he's 9-10 days behind the eight ball before he even sees the program.
Right. We're playing down, Joe, this year in Florida, and Florida started November 1st.
Because their football season is ending right now.
Right.
Almost everybody else in the country is done
Right.
with their playoffs.
Right.
And it's a story for another day. It's all about Thanksgiving Day here and the tradition of Thanksgiving, and how that's going to be solved is a podcast for another time, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
It's one you can't worry about.
Right.
One of the things that 4 state championships, and everybody knows how hard it is to do one.
Right.
As you're going along the way, do you learn anything from winning the first one that helps you win the second one?
Oh, without a doubt.
As the coach?
Yeah, without a doubt. And, you know, and you have to adjust because when we first won, I believe it was back in 98, so that's a long time ago. And then just our last one is 14, and the kids were different. Kids change, and they get, even last year we made it to the finals. That was a different group of kids also.
It's funny how you say kids change. We know about devices and social media, and how has that impacted what you do as a head coach?
Well, because I'm not a vice of the social media, but the kids today, they are. All of them believe in it. They're always on their phones. The news spreads so quick, and I don't know anything about it. You know, and everything gets overhyped, and, you know, and it can be used good or it can be used bad, and it usually comes out both ways.
I'm presuming that 20 years ago, you as the coach could control a lot of the information.
Without a doubt.
Now, you're getting it secondhand from your kids.
No, third hand.
Third hand.
Yeah, I'm getting it from other people sending me stuff and say, did you see this? You know, and all that type of stuff. It's crazy.
What's the solution? What, as a head coach, what can you do to manage that? Can you take away their phones for practices? Or
well, that's what we do. We have to do that or we don't allow them in the locker room because the wrong things can get out and the wrong things can be said. So what we try to do, what we're doing this year, we're collecting the phones on the bus during practice because as soon as, even in practice, Joe, kids would just finish whatever we was doing and they'd get a water break if they got their bag outside or their bag on the thing. You know, they go right to the bag and get on the phone. Wow. I mean, and it's not the talk on it, is the, you know, the multimedia stuff. And like I said, we're not, you know, I'm not too smart about that stuff.
Do you get pushback from the kids, or is it understood day one? If you want to play basketball at Windsor, these are the rules with social media, with your phones.
Not yet, but I've been talking to some college coaches. One of them I was talking to was Gino, and he told me he takes the phones until they have after dinner, because see, it causes less communication amongst the kids. The kids don't communicate like they used to, as we know, because they're always into the phones. But he would say as soon as they walked in the door, they had to give up their phones. And then after they went and had dinner as a group, then he would give the phones back.
As long as we're on this track a little bit, we're talking with Ken Smith, the legendary he's got a basketball court with his name on it, so that's what I would call legendary status. I remember there at Windsor High School, 4 state championships. I will tell anyone who will listen that things that made me really good 20 years ago, I can't even do now. That's how much things have changed. Mm-hmm. If you had to start as a coach now, could you be as effective? Some of the tools and the techniques and things that you used 20 years ago, if you had to start all over as head coach, could you use them?
Well, I could, because I have adjusted and I know how to adjust, but it's really tougher because the tough thing is this, Joe. Kids don't play as much basketball as they used to play. They don't go outside. They don't play out on their own, so it's hard for them to figure things out. So nowadays, parents help them figure it out, like talking to them on the side. Or a kid came up to me one time speaking about the media stuff. He says, well, Coach, what position do you think I'll be able to play? You didn't see me. And he says, well, I said, why? Because he says, I want to go on YouTube and I want to watch that position and watch it so then I can come back and play it. And they don't understand that's not how it's done. Basketball is the most skilled game on earth. Your skills need to be better. And that was like, say, we talk about starting on December 5th. We need to be starting on November 5th so we can build up the skills of these kids, because the kids don't play enough like they used to.
But in terms of you coaching, I think of someone like Jim Calhoun, and I'm not speaking for him, but I would think it would be harder for him now, although he can do some of this stuff at St. Joe's because he's built some credibility, although we've seen how even some of his natural tendencies seem to have caused some problems there. But I'm just wondering if you can, how have you had to adjust? What can't you do now that you could do 20 years ago?
Well, it's always still a major thing. You can't worry about too much that you can't do, because we can't practice, we can't do this, but we can condition the kids. And before, once again, the kids will come conditioned. Nowadays, you have to speed up the process. In other words, I can't spend time on catching and facing. I can't spend so much time on the little small things. I have to blend it all in and teach them how to play, coming from getting a rebound, making an outlet, sprinting down your lanes, getting in position, setting the screen. All these things has to be taught quickly.
But what interests me is your personality as a coach. We know that teaching is critical, but hurting kids' feelings, are the kids so different now that you have to have a different approach to even how you teach? Can you, can you get in their face, or do you have to pull back, or is it different for one, or is it the same for everybody now? You know what I mean? I'm talking about your coaching style.
Right. Well, a lot of kids would probably pretty much back in the day crumble down to, whatever, because it was a little harsh and a little brass. But nowadays you have to be more delicate about certain things that you do and certain things you say, but you have to get them to do the things that you want them to do, and you have to figure it out. I hate using the word, it's kind of like trick them, but that's what you really have to do. And then you keep it moving on. The problem, though, is like with everything, even social media, like with somebody filming practice, and they may see something that they thought was wrong, and then they put it out there, and you're talking about Coach Calhoun is a great man, and has done it his way and been very successful. So, but the thing about it is that effort should come from everybody, and I think this society has taught kids not to give effort, lack of effort. They have taught them. because they got so many video games that they can play instead of getting outside and getting up and down the floor and running, just even racing. I was telling somebody when I was a kid, Joe Zone moved into the neighborhood. I said, "Hey, how you doing? My name is Kent. You want to race?" You know what I mean? They don't do that no more.
How far can you see how far can you throw the football further?
Yeah,
I know exactly.
That's that competition, and kids just don't compete anymore. But they do compete in Fortnite, with everybody. But they don't compete just physically like they should. So we try to make that also come back. Whereas we put Joe Zone against Ken Smith running down the court instead of the whole team running down the court.
But you can't do that, because then that would make one kid better than another, or faster, or stronger. My point is, are you running into today's society where everybody gets a trophy?
Right.
Is it harder to get kids to want to separate?
Well, it is, but see, and this is what another major problem you run into, is that when people go to private schools, they go there to do that sport, or they go there to get that education. But when they come to public schools, you have to draw it out of these guys. We get guys coming in. We just got a 6'8" guy coming in. He don't like to play basketball. You know what I mean?
And everybody assumes he does play.
Right. And, and the whole school's asking them. But we have to find a way to get them to want to play, to want to be the best that they can be.
That's a very interesting dynamic that you say. In private school, if you're going there to play basketball, it's a pretty good bet that every kid who goes there already has the skill level. You're walking around the hallways looking at that kid and that kid and that kid and saying, "Hey, would you like to play basketball?" Right? That's kind of what your day is like in some cases.
Without a doubt. And sometimes, kids, they really like to play, but they don't want to play. So now, if you get it like that, and they could be really good. So then you ask the other kids, "Hey, why are you not talking and recruiting these guys out?" But today's kids doesn't communicate, not via verbalage. They communicate on the phone.
This thing. So how would you like to play on our team? And then you run out of characters.
Right. But if they don't have the phone number, you can't get it. So it's like they have their own society. And I was even thinking they really speak a different language than what I speak.
Yes.
Some of them don't even understand what we're talking about, but they come up with the gibberish. And then I say, "Oh, that's what that means?" And they say, "Yeah, coach, that's what that means." So, I'm trying to learn, because I remember coming up, we had gibberish. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So, but the deal is that now I'm trying to learn what they do, and I just keep asking, "Hey, what does this mean?" I ask my daughter, I say, "Hey, what does this mean?"
I do that all the time with my two.
Yeah.
And while you're telling me what this means, can you also get me online over here, because I haven't figured out how to do that yet with my phone.
And see, if I have a problem with the phone, they can set up the phone, they can do everything. And see, and the thing about it, and I feel like in my mind, they are probably more smarter than we are, and more, genius-like than we are. But then we have to understand our ways and their ways. And that's what I try to do with my team.
We're talking with Ken Smith, basketball coach at Windsor, 4 state championships. And we're talking high school basketball and just today's kids and how stuff has changed a little bit. One of the things I hear, and Randy Etzel talks about this all the time when he's recruiting, the parents today are so much different than the parents he used to deal with. And he has to find his way to the kid, and he eliminates kids based on parents.
Right.
That the parents today are either more involved, or they're involved in a different way, and they have more to say. Are you, at the high school level, are you getting some of that?
Oh, without a doubt. But, see, I expect that. Yeah. Because, see, I'm not at Randy's or Gino's or Jim's level. I'm at the teaching phase level. I'm the foundation guy. And I understand that Joe Zone wants his daughters or his sons to be the best that they can be. And because I have a son, I have a daughter. And I wanted them to be the best they can be. So I understand the parents. And so what I do with that stuff, I put it to the parents, and show them how their children could be better. Because the real key to, I think, at high school coaching, if these kids today just listen. And if they listen and if they really took in what the coach is saying, they would be a whole lot better. And so now we try to give the kids a lot of different things. As you know, today's kids, I got kids going to, I call him the rubber band man, the conditioning guy, this guy. And I tell a kid, I said, man, you still can't get over the rim. So I'm wondering, what are you doing? Why are you paying all this money for this stuff? And see, and that's what's taking away a lot of stuff too, because you got a lot of guys who are teaching these guys with the AAU stuff, and they're really not teaching these guys the basic fundamentals. That's why Randy's pissed off at a lot of stuff, or Jim or Gino, because the kids are not learning the basics that they should already know once they get to college.
Have you found, as you've built your credibility, as you've won championships, that does buy you some feel good with parents? I mean, it's easy for them to come in and say, I want my kid to do this and my kid to do that. And then all they have to do is say, well, you can say, well, maybe, but, we do have a history here of winning teams and teaching kids how to play, so let me do it my way.
Well, one thing I can tell you this story one time. My son was a very good player. And obviously, and I can say that hands down one of the best ever in the state. But now, I had a parent come in one time, and she was all upset because, she wanted her son to get a scholarship, or she wanted her son to be good. And she told me, she says, she gave me the spiel, well, why my son ain't doing this and doing that? And the son wasn't that good. But then she said to me, well, did your son get a scholarship? I said, yes, ma'am. And so then she said, well, I want my son to do the same. And when she told me that, I didn't get mad because it was funny. I was going to chase after her and say, well, look, because she just took off. And I was going to chase after and say, well, if your son worked harder or whatever, he could. And that's the truth. But I understood what she was saying. And when she comes in the door, she wants us as coaches to make them better. See, and I don't talk to my guys about winning games. I don't believe in that. I believe in talking to them about being the best that they can be. And if they became the best they can be, that's all. See, because I think I'm not a guy who wins state championships. I tell them I had better teams and we lost. So, and I said, I'm not about that. I'm a guy who's about winning lives. You know what I mean? And see, and because I tell them also, I says, I'm going to see you when you come back home. And I want you to say, hey, coach, how you doing? And I want to say how you doing. I want to have a conversation with you. I don't want you running around or running away from me. I want you to be successful as a human being, and that's all I care about. Because championships, you have to get lucky. You have to get a call here or there that may go your way, because we only got 4, but we should have had a way lot more. So, and then it depends on the kids that you have, if they really listen for that year, because the 14 year we won it, nobody thought we could win it. You know what I mean? Yeah. Everybody was surprised because the biggest guy we had was 6'3". But the deal is that we did. And so the whole thing is about the kid. It's not about me. It's not about Windsor. It's about the kid. And that's what we try to do, make the kids better. And I really believe in that. Not just basketball players, better people.
Yes, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
Because the legacy really, in my mind, is all the kids who never go out and play but come back and lead lives and raise families and have jobs and careers and are in their community helping others. I mean, that's the whole legacy of coaches and teachers right there.
Right, Joe. But if you look at it right, what do you think that a parent really wants? Was ever her kid to be the best? Because if I tried dealing with the parents, and the kids would tell, I really believe this also, the kids would tell the parents, back up. I'm good. He got this. Coach Smith is a good guy.
Well, that means a lot if it's coming from a kid who's working every day with you.
I've had guys come in, I wanted to talk to the parents and the kid was dead wrong, and I'm talking to the parent. Parents don't see no wrong in kids. And the kid would cry because the lady talking to me or the guy talking to me like, he's mad with me. And I understand that because I understand that this is your child. And the child is understanding because he said, Mom, Dad, I'm not working that hard. I'm not doing what Coach is asking to do. I could be better, and I know I could be better. This guy's pushing me to be better. You know what I mean? So you have all those things that come into play. So now a lot of parents feel like because they have all these workout people and all these people saying, oh, look, go here, go there, and they feel like they can talk to the coaches like this. They feel like they can communicate with the coaches.
Right.
And these guys spend more time every day of their lives trying to figure a way to make their programs better. So, it's something that you just can't do.
Let's talk a little bit about your team again, talking with
Oh, they're terrible.
Ken Smith. Yeah, right. Ken Smith, the head coach at Windsor, 4 state championships. I've only talked to a few people. One of them, Joe Morelli, who you know very well, runs the poll. I'm a part of that. But all I'm hearing is Windsor this year is the team to beat. I know you. I'm sure that you'll downplay that, and let's talk about that a little bit, because I don't know many coaches, at least in front of the camera or the microphone, will say, "Yeah, everything I ever get from a head coach is we don't pay attention to the polls."
Right.
I know the kids pay attention to the polls, and I don't know.
I do though.
Okay, so you can
So I
either
like
use
the
it.
polls. No, I don't use it. It fires me up. If we're not in the top 3, I'm pissed.
Oh, so you want to play from the lead, not from. You don't want to be the surprise guy.
No, because I think the program deserves that. You know what I mean? And it's been certain times we ain't been in the top 10, and that means Ken Smith, you're not working hard enough. So and that just pumps me up, makes me want to go, and all that type of stuff. So I do believe in. I don't believe in the polls. I want to be number 1 at the end, but I want you to think that I'm good, and I want to be good, and I want to be the best. I want my team to be the best because they play in every game. So I want them to be great. I want them to be damn near perfect, and that's what we try to teach our kids. But the thing about it, far as I understand that's somebody's opinion on what's happening.
Yes.
But if you're not talking about Windsor High, Ken Smith ain't doing his job.
That's a really good point. And one of the things that Dan Hurley talks about is he's trying to regain that image for UConn basketball. Is he's looking for players with more fire, more all in game time. I don't think he has a problem with look at me, look at this is what I just did. That's a really fine line, I think, between a kid who, after he makes a great play, stomps up and down or showboats. I obviously the camera guys love it because, and I've been at games where they'll come right over to the camera, and look at me, do this kind of a thing. Where does it sit with you? Is it a fine line or is it off the table completely?
Oh, I don't like it.
Okay.
The reason why I don't like it because that's entertainment. And, we want you to entertain. We want you to be good. We want people to come out and see you play. But then you think about doing that, you just want to bring attention to yourself. But that's how society has made everything happen. Yeah. We have these guys that walk around now, and they at these out days during the summer, they out during the high school, and they all got cameras. So they make highlight films for the kids. Yeah. And so now I'm getting guys, they trying to get a highlight. They're not trying to beat the team. They're not thinking team first. They're not trying to win the game. That's another distraction. Seeing all these media distractions, that's what we have. And seeing they miss the big point about everything. The point is about them being the best they can be. And now if basketball takes you on in life, which it can, to earn a scholarship, to meet new people, because everybody wants people who understands about being part of a program, a team. Because then, like CBS is a team, you know what I mean? Everybody has their job to do. Right. You have to fit in. You have to know your roles and do it and carry it out without any problem. And that's what a good basketball team does, But I definitely don't, certain things don't care about that stuff.
Let's talk about your team, because
told you they're not that great.
I know, except that you got 2 kids, right? I mean, at least 2 kids I know people are talking about. You've already got one who's already got 2 committed, I think, now to go to college and scholarships.
One has left us last year, and that was one of the things I want to touch on. We had a pretty good team last year.
Yeah,
and the guys played together, and especially when they listened, we had a pretty good team. So now we had one guy who was early committed as a sophomore to go play for Ryder.
Yep.
Now we had another guy who left, Lawrence Foreman. He was here for 1 year. Worked on his skills, obviously, worked after the season, worked hard. Then we got him into a prep school, and he just got offered by Ryder also. So he's going to Ryder next year. So now we have another guy. His name is Amir Spears.
Love that kid.
He's a
Good
great
football player too.
Very good, and he's a great athlete, and a lot of things in basketball now. He's had offers from Providence was one of them, which was a big offer. He chose not to accept it, and a lot of people would say, "Oh, well, why he didn't, or why he didn't?" And I say, "Well, maybe he knows what he wants." Because he could have, but he chose not to. So maybe it's something bigger. So my thing is to, say, hey, you did nice, 27 points, 12, assists around there. So why don't we try to be even better this year? And see what happens instead of looking at, oh, you should have took this, you should have did that. And, and he has a lot of other offers from other colleges, So what we're hoping that, I guess his dream school is really UConn. But one thing when Calhoun was here in charge, and Kevin somewhat, they would take the best player in the state.
In the state.
Yes. And I thought this dude last year was one of the best players in basketball in the state by far. I really thought he didn't get the accolades that he should have got, but that's a story for another podcast.
Right. Do you, as a coach, find that you have you've got a Division I kid who's really good?
Yeah.
So are you in a position where you have to try to nurture that, make him better and as good as he can be, but not to the detriment of the team? I wonder if that's a challenge and responsibility as head coach. That kid's really good. We want him to get really better. We could spend more time with him, but then does that take away from what you're trying to do with the rest of the team?
Well, you have the rest of the team. You have him, he's here, and then you have the rest of the team. If they're a little lower, you want to try and get them to be up to his standards.
Right.
Because we have two dudes that can go. And we just got a transfer in by the name of Justice Ellison. You may know his father.
Yep.
Sean Ellison played at UConn, then transferred to U Hart.
Yep.
But the thing of it is that he can go too, and I just need him to raise up the level and just play, and be together and play together. But everybody, they have to understand, you have to dominate, you have to go. So if I had spent time trying to get the guys who don't want to, it's just like a race. If Joe Zone is very quick, and he's bursting out there, we're going to get him to be even quicker. But now Ken Smith is slow. We're going to try to get him quicker too, but it may not be as quick as Joe Zone.
Yeah, you don't want him to bring his level down.
There you go.
You want everybody to be lifted up by the
Exactly.
skill of your best player.
Right, yeah, and he is, I could say he's one of the best because I think Corey's very good.
Yep.
And I think the kid Justice is going to be good.
Yep.
But, we just have to come to play, though, and we have to play both ends.
Is it harder to coach talented teams than it is teams that are figuring things out and are trying to get to be really good?
Well, see, that's my thing. I like to teach kids how to figure it out. I don't teach them too many plays, and I believe in teaching them how to play. And so the thing that's easier for me to do because now everybody in my eyes looks good, because they're learning the game, they're making progress. As far as the guys, the better players, they understand what I want done. And if they don't understand, then I have to use my friend, the bench. And I don't want to have to do that because I'm saying you should be more advanced in this right now. You know what this is all about. We ain't got to play those games. You know what I mean? We want you to bring that effort all night, every night.
There's, as a guy on the sidelines who sees a lot, it's funny because I'm into a game, I'm in for a quarter or a half.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, I see a lot of games, but I don't see any games.
Right.
But there's nothing I look more forward to during basketball season than your games with East Catholic.
Yeah.
To me, that is really what high school basketball should be. Can't be, obviously, every day.
Right.
But when it's there and when it is that,
right,
it's spectacular. Do you feel the same way about those games?
Well, I do because at one time I used to, when we lived in Glastonbury, I was assistant coach on the team that Luke played on, which was the Glastonbury travel team. That's when I first started getting into coaching. So, and I knew him growing up, and I knew his dad. God bless his soul. He's a legendary, still is a legend in my mind. Joe was a great coach and a good friend. But the thing of it is that I really say the competition is always good, because once again, they can get who they like, and I get who I get. But and when we meet like that, and if it goes one way or the other way, I'm always proud of our kids, because I'm saying you always competing at this high level, no matter who you play against. And I mean, I really believe in that. Our saying at Windsor is not who you play, it's how you play. So it really doesn't matter. You know what I mean? In the big games, that's what we want to play in, because we're a big program. You know what I mean? We want to be in the big games. That's what high school is all about. The excitement, all that type of stuff that comes along with it for the kids. It's always about the kids, those memories, those games. And, before it was East Catholic, it was Weaver. Before it was Weaver, it was Buckley. There was a lot of guys that you play. And see, we're always in the mix, because we're always a good program that's right. Always in the big games.
I talk about that a lot, and I always use the UConn women as an example. It's impossible, and as a head coach, because of all the variables, to be that great that many years in a row, because there's too many changing parts.
Yeah.
And Windsor is always, no matter what everybody else around the state's doing,
right.
Windsor is always there.
Right.
To me, as in UConn's case and at East Catholic's case, in some case, it's about the coach, because the kids change.
Right.
The coach is the guy who's the same, who brings the level up, makes sure that the program stays where it is. Hard to do.
Well, I have a friend of mine named Charlie Bentley. He used to coach Harding High School. He's a great coach. And I used to remember when I started, I used to go watch his games, because I liked the way he did things. I liked the way his teams played. But the thing he always tells me, he says, well, if you don't be there, then Windsor don't be Windsor. And he said that's just it. And that's just like UConn girls, ladies, if Gino wasn't there, because he's a great coach. And you see the difference with Calhoun. I would tell Kevin, because we're good friends, and I would tell Kevin, I said, Kevin, the one thing about it, I know what you're trying to do, but the one thing about it, when Coach was coaching, and no matter who he played against, the Civic Center was always sold out. And that meant something.
Yep.
You know what I mean? That meant a whole lot. It meant a lot to me, because I look around, because Coach used to always bring the Windsor kids to the games.
Yep.
And I look around, and we playing John Wallace and, Syracuse. The floor is rocky. Oh, my God, there. You know what I mean? And you can feel the heat when you're sitting down there. You get chills.
The energy's going through you. You don't want to even sit down. You want to stand the whole game.
The game ain't even started. You know what I mean? And you get all that stuff. And I said, Coach used to always have, no matter who he played against, he could be playing against University of Hartford. The place would be packed.
Yep. Well, we're going to wind this down again. I've got Ken Smith. Ken, if you had one thing, I'll give you a chance to think about as we're thinking about high school basketball in Connecticut. What's the one thing that you think should be done right now that would make high school basketball in Connecticut better?
Do I got an hour?
Yeah.
Good.
That's what I like about this being open-ended.
Listen. I think right now that we should start earlier. I think Connecticut has the governing body have given in to allowing football to control stuff, which is sad, and everything is changing except for basketball. They start us after Thanksgiving, then they push us back, they push us a little bit up. But, the skill game of basketball is harder. Now, you don't want people to cheat, but people have to find a way to develop the skills of kids who don't understand the game. Because you think about it's a fast and moving game. You can do so much. You can't stop and think. In football, you stop and you can have a cup of water, a donut, or whatever you want. In basketball, you don't have that time. You got to make quick decisions on the move all the time. So now their skills are not ready for that, especially when you're coming from another sport. I also think that they should allow certified guys like coaches to coach their kids, because they're allowing kids to be coached by other people who are not certified. Strange things that happen on one end. abuse. Other things are happening where kids are getting, intoxicated, getting high, and not being taught how to act on the road, when they with these AAU guys. And a lot of guys doing AAU are not teaching the kids anything. They teach and promote that me stuff instead of we stuff. I think that needs to change. I think they need to let us, once again, start early, let us coach year-round, just like I think the CIAC boys basketball program need to adopt what they do in New Jersey, because they're stopping kids, to be honest. I would be mad as a parent right now, because now you're disallowing my child to get a scholarship in basketball, the game that they really love. You're telling them they can't work with a teacher. That's like me saying, like, okay, this person teaches physical science. You can't go and work with them.
Like my daughter when she had to get a math tutor. So in basketball, you can't go outside and get that extra kind of training.
Right, but now if you do, everybody claims to be, you got a lot of trainers making money now, which I don't knock that, because that's what they do. I'm talking about guys talking basketball. But they charging kids, and, my son is one of them. And so now, but the thing of it is, you're doing one-on-one stuff. I'm trying to teach team stuff.
Yes.
You're doing one-on-one, you're out the door. I'm doing team stuff and being a good student, being a good character person. You get kids, and our kids right now have a different language. They're saying different things out their mouths. They don't have any fundamental basketball language, because people are not giving them that on these one-on-one workouts or two-on-twos, whatever they're doing. They're not talking to them about the fundamentals of basketball. So now when it comes to a coach, I had the kid, Lawrence Foreman, he would call back home to the West Indians and tell his parents, I don't know what he's talking about. Because he's never heard what I'm talking about.
Doesn't understand the language.
Right. And see,
I don't mean the English language.
Right,
Doesn't understand the basketball language.
Exactly. So now, and I would say, well, now I understood what he was saying, because he never heard this stuff talking about this, that, and saying, yo, let's go, let's do it, and he never been pushed like that. So the thing of it is that we need more, we need to be allowed to do what we do, as being coaches. And, obviously, I'm going to be out the game pretty soon. But, you want the game to be at its best. And I don't care about winning a title. I don't care who beats me, because I didn't play guys and they from Jersey and Mass said, oh, you a legend, and I'm like, my man, it's about the game. You know what I mean? Because if officials cheat kids, they're cheating the game. If you as a coach cheat kids, you're cheating the game. Don't cheat the game. And that's what my problem. But I think the CIAC doesn't allow all these things to happen. Like it was a time this summer, the NCAA flipped the script, say we want to give it back to the high school coaches. So now we as high school coaches thinking that we could have put on a tournament to have something so the kids can be seen in the offseason. Especially it's not so much concerned about the kids like the Primos or the Corey McKeithans or Matt over there at East Catholic. Those guys are going to be seen.
Right.
Yes. Those guys are going to be seen. So now it's about guys like the Ken Smith and the Joe Zones who ain't that good. Maybe they get an opportunity to be seen.
Yeah, maybe they can go to Eastern or Central or
somewhere to get seen. Yeah. So, but the CIAC wouldn't allow that. But now what's happened, they took the prep schools. The prep schools got together, the NEPSAC, and they had their little thing. Millions of college coaches up there. But public school kids and I guess Catholic school kids, I don't know what you call them, private school kids, they couldn't go associate with that because they wasn't a part of the NEPSAC. You know what I mean? And they were saying the NEPSAC couldn't come and associate with us. But our rules need to change because I think our rules is hindering kids from being better in the state. And then they was talking about, guy from South Carolina ain't gonna come to Connecticut to recruit a kid. And when the guy, I heard that, I saw it in the paper, and I said, something must be wrong with this guy because he must don't know basketball.
Exactly.
Yeah, if a player's a player, they come all around. You got the guy in Bristol, he's a sophomore. Everybody's trying to get that kid.
7'2"
Yeah,
I don't even know his name yet.
Right. Everybody's offered this kid.
Right.
So, I mean, I don't know what he's talking about.
Right.
But the deal is like we need ourselves, the whole system needs to change, and it needs to change for the better, not for the worse. Another thing is this: my kids every year we made the state tournament. They sell T-shirts with our names on them, right?
Yeah.
I said, well, why don't you get the kids a T-shirt? Oh, we can't do that. Why don't you give them a hat? We can't do that. Okay, so you don't do all those things. It's all right. So then I would say, hey, can I buy the T-shirt at a discount so my kids can have them, like half price or whatever, No, they won't do that. They just take all the T-shirts back. And I can't understand that. I mean, tournament's over. You can't sell anymore. So why couldn't you just order and say, hey, listen, I want that shirt? That's what I'm saying. See, so we need to be more positive and more better. And like I said, November 1st, the guys playing down there in Florida, they're getting ready. They're getting busy. They're practicing. And then we go down there on the 27th, and we only had like a week. They done had games in about 6 weeks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
To play. So it's just totally different everywhere else, and it's different here. And I used to be on the committee, and we used to talk about the shot clock. And we voted 70%, but it's never got in. And that doesn't bother me because everybody doesn't have a shot clock. You know what I mean? But I think there's just the basic rules of the CIAC. They should follow the New Jersey setup.
Which is what?
Well, they have like they have a playoffs. Because, like, for instance, the Catholic schools, they have their own playoffs. The public schools, they have their own playoffs. And whatever schools, they put in those categories. And then they have a tournament of champions. Whereas we would play, say, East Catholic, and another team will be playing, boom, boom. The top 4 teams will be playing against each other. And then you have one winner. But the reason why I say that, because, like, Hurley's dad is a friend of mine. Okay, and Bob has about 39 state titles or something like that, right?
Yeah.
But that's within his division. And then when he goes to the Tournament of Champions, he's won some of those, but he's lost some of those.
Right.
See, but my kids are missing out on a state championship because we have to play a private school. And everybody who's beaten us, you have a good chance against us if you're the private school in the last, 10 years.
So you don't like the new division where I call it the big boy division, Division 1, where the best teams in the state are in that division?
No, because, see, that's for them, but it's not for the kids. Now, I don't mind playing against them in the regular season, but my kids deserve a state championship because that's what they want. That's why I don't think about them, but they deserve that because they were probably the best, obviously, public school team in the state.
Yeah.
Now, if we had a tournament of champions, then we could play that, and that would determine who's the best team in the state.
So you'd like to see, after the championship weekend at the Mohegan Sun, where
Right.
the 5 titles go out,
Right.
and then how would you break down
Well,
who would play out of that?
It probably would be like such, because how many schools do we have here? We have these magnet schools now. But anyway, it should go back. It used to be in size. We had the double
Yes.
L, the L, the whatchamacallit, and then you probably have a capital. New York does something too. I don't know exactly what they do, but they do something too. And then you have your PSL champion, and then you have your parochial champion, I guess they call it.
Yep.
And then they go and they play down for the big championship. So it's just, it can be figured out in a better way, I guess, and it should be really given some thought. It's too easy now. And I'm going to give you another example, Joe, if I can.
Yeah.
Now, I thought the rules was say, hey, if you win, you move up. Okay, because obviously what we have to do, no matter what, we don't control it. We have to play by the rules. So now I'm saying if we win, we move up. So now I'm looking at the thing. I said Glastonbury moved up D1, I heard. And Manchester moves up D1, I heard. And I don't mind because, I said we got to beat them all anyway. Because that's in my mindset, because they won't change the rules like I think they should be. But I'm just a little old guy, just. Don't know nothing. But anyway, Waterford beat Glastonbury and Manchester and won the state championship, and they still down in Division Two.
Yes.
I don't know how that can work.
That's good.
You know what I mean? I mean, tell me. It was just like I told you, I thought my guy was a good player last year, played a good season, played Division One, talking about Mir and Corey. And there were some other guys from East Catholic that did a nice job, Jalen, Joey Riley. I thought that. We was at the Coach Association, and they did that. So now it was my guy, and I thought he had a chance to get that. But if Joey and them won, you know, because they beat us, I said, oh, my hat's off to them. They gave the award for Player of the Year to a kid that got hurt, and he was a good player.
Yeah.
But he got hurt in January.
I remember that.
In Division III he played and didn't finish the year. So I just couldn't. I said, what could I go home and tell my child, hey, this guy won and didn't finish the year? And I questioned committee about that. You know, I don't mean to be harsh and stuff.
Just tell me why.
Yeah, but I don't know how you can, you know, I mean, if you have a pension and you don't, and when I worked in the prison, if I didn't complete my 20 years, you know, and I only completed 5, I wasn't going to get a full pension.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just couldn't understand it. So
I'm going to say goodbye to Ken Smith, but one last thing, and Ken Smith, Windsor High School. California started this thing going about kids now are going to be able to use their likeness to maybe profit from that. If companies, if somebody wants to put their likeness on a T-shirt. Again, I use coaches like Randy Yetzel. All for it, thinks that kids should be able to profit from their own image as long as others are. What's your feeling? You're going to have some senior kids who are going to say, Coach, I want to go you got to help me get get some kind of a deal when I go to college.
Well, see, that's another thing that's going to come in, and that's another thing that's going to be doing. I don't think the high school should have to deal with that. But, you know, then when you look at it, and I hate to talk about our governing program, that we packed the house. We're struggling. Right now we're trying to go to Florida to play, and we're struggling. But last game we played, we packed the house down there with 10,000 people.
Yes. Right?
Packed joint. And neither one of the programs get anything from that. So I don't know. That's why I was talking about the T-shirt, about the hat. You know what I mean? We get some grinders and see you later, you know, and some medals. So I just think everything should change. But I don't know if that should be true like it is for the college players, because they are really on TV a lot. They are advertised a lot, you know, and they are seen a lot, especially with these games that they have for college players now. I think it started with the O'Bannon brothers, or one of the O'Bannon boys, you know, and they sued and they won. So. But I don't know if kids should be paid to go to college. I don't know, you know, because with that, something else is going to change, you know. And then,
well, as you know, if this is okay, well, then what's the next thing that's okay? And then there's something else that's going to be okay. And then where does it end? Where sooner or later, in my opinion, they're just going to start writing checks to these kids. You get your scholarship, and each kid gets $10,000, and this kid gets $15,000, and then the agents are in, and that's what I worry about.
Well, you know, you think about it, they let gambling in. You know what I mean? So, and I never thought that would be a big thing, because I remember being on the committee for high school. We would never think about going into a casino to play basketball with kids.
It's funny you say that, though. When you go in there, you'd never know you're in a casino, because they bring you in underneath.
Right.
And it's funny because all the times I've covered the events there, I've never climbed upstairs to the second floor, but it is in a casino. But I don't know if a lot of people know, they bring you in the bus, they bring you downstairs the way the artists come in.
They do a great job.
And to me, I've only been in the state 15 years. I thought it was probably the best end of season event for high school sports in the state when they moved it to there. Easy to cover, a lot of people in there, big excitement, and I still know the kids really get excited when they walk out on that court for the first time. You've seen it enough times.
They do. It is a great atmosphere, because even when we had won it in 2009, and I went back and I told them, I said, I told him, I said, listen, man, it was great. Thank you very much. I think it worked well. My kids didn't see none of the gambling machines. They just came in there and just went out of there. So.
All right. Well, I'm getting the wrap-up call from my guy out in the studio.
I see him there.
Did we go more than an hour? I think we did. But I have a feeling, Ken, that
that's what happens when we having great time, having good fun amongst friends.
Yeah, we're not just talking about X's and O's. I like to talk outside the X's and O's,
right,
about life and people and stories and kids and how it's, because I've seen so much change in my 45 years. But
right.
I always wonder how the kids change. You've given us some insight on that. But as much as things changed, they stay the same. I guarantee you guys are going to be right up there, 1, 2, or 3 when this starts. And I think in March we're going to be seeing it at the Mohegan Sun Arena.
That's what I coach for, and let me say this: it is really not about the X's and O's, Joe. It's about the Kens and Joes. That's what it's about.
Yeah, that's a good way to end
yes.
it. All right, Ken Smith, thanks very much for joining us here on the Joe Zone podcast, and thanks for being with us. 9